Thyroid health. A thyroid problem, a lot of the time, is secondary to an associated or another problem in the body, most of the time. And you can either get two thyroid problems, really, hypo and hyper. Hypo is when you don't produce enough hormone, and hyper is when you're producing too much. There's also a Hashimoto's now. If you have hypothyroidism, 90% of the time, it's a Hashimoto's problem. 80% of the time, if you have a hyper problem, hyperthyroidism, too much hormone, it's the Hashimoto's condition called Graves. One of them might be you, might not, but you're going to be interested to find this out because I'm probably betting you know someone that has either hypo or hyper or Hashimoto's or Graves. Very common for a reason. Here's some symptoms of a hypothyroid condition. So, weight gain, cold feet, weight gain all over, not just any one particular place. Craving carbohydrates, always looking for carbs. Sleepy, wake up, craving carbs, looking for the first stash of carbohydrates, straight into the biscuit tin. Constipation, hypo, everything's slowed down. You don't have enough hormone, everything's slowed down. Your thyroid is your metabolic driver. It controls everything. It controls hundreds of hormones and chemical reactions in the body. And if it's hypo, doesn't have enough, then everything is slowed down, which is why your system becomes slow and sluggish and you a lot of the time get constipation. Low libido, can't be bothered. Nah, not tonight. Lights going out. Over onto your side, quilt up to your ears. Tired, depression. You struggle to absorb proteins, so brittle nails, brittle hair, skin problems. That's some of the symptoms of hypo. Now, as I told you in previous lives, the liver controls the conversion. In the main, 80% of the conversion happens in the liver. So T4, so in fact, let's rewind. The pituitary gland stimulates thyroid stimulating hormone. So that's a pituitary hormone which drips down here into the thyroid. The thyroid has to then get the inactive form of thyroid, which is T4, to T3, the active form. So T4 can't do much, but T3 definitely can. So there has to be a conversion there. But that conversion happens in the liver, 80% of it, the other 20% happens in the kidney. So if you've got a problem with the liver or a problem with the kidney or both, then your thyroid's going to be affected. And probably your thyroid condition is secondary to what's going on in the liver and the kidney. But a lot of the problems, as you know, are caused in the liver. So T4 has to get to T3, 80% happens in the liver. So if you've got fatty liver or you've got cirrhosis of the liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, alcoholic fatty liver disease, that's going to be a real problem. Look down, if you've got a belly, generally speaking, there's fat in and around your liver. So will that impact upon your thyroid? Yeah, a lot of the time it will. Estrogen, if you have a hypothyroid issue, a lot of the time that's caused, or a lot of the time you probably have a really heavy period, or you get real bother, real crampy periods. You bleed really heavily, you get really tired, really flat, maybe depressed, and it sometimes goes hand in hand with a thyroid problem, a hypothyroid problem. And the reason for that is estrogen. When you are estrogen dominant, estrogen blocks the receptors on the thyroid and they compete. So if you've got too much estrogen, it affects the thyroid and the thyroid can't do its job. So, and in pregnant women actually, once they've had a baby, sometimes, you've probably heard of this actually, you get a hypothyroid problem because the person's just been pregnant, so they have a surge in estrogen, and that often follows, or is often followed by a thyroid problem. So you need to think back to when you were diagnosed. Maybe you haven't been diagnosed, but if you have been, think back to when you were diagnosed. Was it after pregnancy? Have you got a heavy period? And it's maybe to do with estrogen. Also, if you've got a liver problem, that's one thing, but you may not have a gallbladder either. And between the liver and the gallbladder, bile is formed, and the gallbladder holds it, and bile helps in the absorption and the breakdown of fats. Now, if there's a bile problem, that is probably one of the reasons also that you have a thyroid issue. But the problem is here, a lot of the time this isn't being discussed. And so you just think that you've just got this issue and you'll go and get your bloods, like my mum every so often. My mum's thyroid issue, I personally think, is to do with stress and the association with adrenal stress. But that's another conversation and one for another time, I think. So if you've got a sluggish bile production or no gallbladder, that could be another issue. And in which case, purified bile salts would be a really good subject to research. Now, if you have the other end, so you've got hyperthyroid, too much thyroid hormone, you don't want to take purified bile salts because that will help the thyroid and you'll produce more, but you're already producing more. So you don't want to take purified bile salts because that will speed the whole thing up. You might also be deficient in iodine. Now, maybe if you live in a place where you've maybe been exposed to radiation or your soils have been stripped of iodine, it may be an iodine problem. The bile production also, see if you've got a real constipation issue, and a lot of people do. It may well be bile as well, so when you start taking purified bile salts, that could start to stimulate and help and just make the quite literally the passage and the flow of your bodily functions be more lubricated, which in turn will relieve the stress, will relieve the backup, relieve the liver, relieve the thyroid. So bile salts may be the answer for you. But this is by no means a diagnosis. This is stuff that you need to go and research yourself and talk to your doctor about. It's to make you curious, that's all. These are things that aren't discussed a lot. And I believe you need to know this stuff. And whether you can dispel it or think, well, no, that's not for me, but that is of interest, so I'm going to look at that. Then that's what I'm here to do. One of the cells in your body that is, let's say, answerable to the thyroid is your mitochondria. And your mitochondria are the powerhouse cells. They are the cells of life, and everything goes on in the mitochondria that drives life, let's just say. I'm putting this really simply. So if your thyroid is operating substandard, less than it should be, it's hypo, it's slow and it's sluggish, your mitochondria are going to feel that and they are going to be less efficient. So in terms of power and zest and vitality, you're going to feel like drained and wabbit. That's how you're going to feel, quite lifeless, always sleepy. Even if you've had a sleep, you're just never properly awake. And I'm talking about hypo more than I am hyper, because hypo seems to be a bigger problem across the world. So, there we go. Now, thyroid nodules. We heard of them. Nodules appearing on the thyroid. One of the main reasons is a selenium deficiency. Now, selenium and iodine are stored, they're trace minerals that are stored in the thyroid. Now, your doctor's probably warned you not to eat green cruciferous vegetables or too many of them because it will deplete iodine. Now, when you're doing it, or you've maybe been advised to take sea kelp. Sea kelp has iodine in it, but it has to be really clean sea kelp from, I always suggest, Icelandic waters, really, really clean waters, really pure. So if there's anybody who is worried about that, I would start taking sea kelp. Obviously speak to your doctor first, but sea kelp will help you get iodine back. Now, here's what I suggest. So, the reason that we take green cruciferous vegetables is to help the liver detox. Now, if there's an estrogen dominance problem, cruciferous vegetables are anti-estrogenic. They help offset the bad estrogen and really help the liver cleanse in terms of estrogen and loads of other things, pollution, chemicals, GMO, non-organic stuff as well. You know all this, but just think just now about estrogen. So if you're not eating green cruciferous vegetables because you're scared of the iodine connection, which is fine for now, how is your liver then supposed to decompartmentalise and fix the estrogen problem? Well, it can't, can it? So what do you do then? If it was me, I would research it to death and I would try it myself. If it was me, if I had a hypothyroid issue, I would research it. And a lot of the time, your doctor says, oh, stop with the green veg. But did they tell you that there's estrogen mimickers in soy? Did they tell you to stop eating soy protein isolates that's in so many of the pre-packaged food, especially the diet foods and the big faddy diets that are out there, the pre-packaged stuff? You know what I'm talking about here. Soy and everything. Soy protein isolates are estrogen mimickers. Will your doctor ever have that conversation with you? No, he'll tell you to stop eating green cruciferous or green vegetables though, and to watch that. But what about all the rest of the crap? What about all the chemicals that are estrogen mimickers? Where do we have that conversation? But we'll have to stop eating cruciferous vegetables. Are they trying to keep us sick? Are they trying to keep us on medication? So organic selenium would really help, and organic from the elements. So there's seleno. You say this slowly. Selenomethanine or methanine is an organic supplement that you could take that can support everything that I've just talked about. So if you're deficient in selenium and it's affecting the thyroid, then have a look at this, please. Vitamin E, one with tocotrienols in it. Cod liver oil, so the fat-soluble vitamins are contained within cod liver oil, vitamin A, D and E. Nutritional yeast is also amazing to help support low selenium levels. What's not good for a thyroid, a low thyroid problem or a hypo problem, is low-calorie diets. So your metabolism is slow and sluggish. So then you go on a low-calorie diet or a low-fat diet. You count calories. These stupid, crazy, mental 500, 800 calorie diets. Well, they sounded good because the doctor on the telly told me they were good and somebody lost a stone in a week. Fine, fair enough. That's not going to be good to support anything. Nothing. Considering your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, demands 1,500 calories to keep these bodily functions going, and that's just lying in your bed. Well, you don't lie in your bed. How are you supposed to perform internally if you are depleting your body of nutrients? You're only taking 500, we don't talk about calories, but you know what I'm saying here. Low-fat alternatives, all of these bulking agents and soy and refined products and chemicals and plastics and contaminants and pollution. Dear God, is it any wonder we've got cancer that's spreading the world and all these other health problems? It's really quite frightening, really. It's something I'm really obviously passionate about, but how many people? See, there's 70 people on here out of 950. I hope you're going to watch this back because I don't think your personal trainer will be talking to you about this stuff. In fact, I would put my money on it, unless your personal trainer is on here. I spying it, Shelley Booth, which they probably are. Iodine, cruciferous vegetables, vitamin A and D. Intermittent fasting. People go, intermittent fasting isn't good for a low thyroid or hypothyroid issue. Why not? Well, because you're like starving your body. You know that you're not starving your body. You know that there's a pattern of eating and not eating. That's it. Intermittent fasting will help in the conversion of T4 to T3. It'll help in the reversal of insulin resistance. It'll help in the reversal of fatty liver. It'll help everything. It's not calorie suppression, they're very, very calorific meals. You know that. Christ, we've got cream and cheese and everything going on. Even if you were eating 2 meals a day and it was nutrient, what's the word? Nutrient dense. Even if these 2 meals were nutrient dense, and you still think, well, I've never had a breakfast though. Full on meals, no counting calories, no low fat crap will help your metabolism. That's fasting. That's going to help you. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Yeah, but my trainer told me. I don't care what the trainer told you. You're here for a reason. Okay, done. I hope this is of use to you, by the way. I'm sure it will be. So, what do you want to avoid? Stimulants. These people that used to take the diet pills and the Red Bulls and the energy drinks and the ephedrine. Remember years ago? The speed that people used to take. What is that going to do? For a start, it's going to burn out your adrenals, but it's also going to affect your thyroid. It's going to overwork an already clapped out thyroid. So people think, oh, that's going to help me. It's going to give me energy. In fact, it's going to create a longer term problem, which is why a lot of people who have taken ephedrine and speed and all that stuff have real issues with weight because their thyroid's buggered and their adrenals have been under constant stress. A lot of bodybuilders, a lot of people that used to train used to take ephedrine because you double quadruple your productivity in the gym. But longer term, no good. So, avoid soy, no hidden soy, no soy milk. See, vegetarians and vegans and stuff need to really, really think about this. Soy is not good for this reason. The estrogen contained within will cause havoc, especially if you are estrogen dominant. And you don't want to be messing with your estrogen levels because it's connected to lots of different cancers. You know that. Cruciferous vegetables are anti-estrogenic. Why would you not eat them? Take a sea kelp. Brilliant. Talk to your doctor. Ovary support formula is also another good thing to talk to your doctor about. Really support your ovaries. If you've got heavy, crampy periods and you have a thyroid issue, research ovary support formula. Organic foods, minimising pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, chemicals. Keep them away. That's why a lot of times you come on here and your cycle changes. I used to be really regular, or I used to be this, or I used to be that. You're creating deep cellular level changes for the better when you eat like we eat. Good? Brilliant. Okay. Hyper. When your thyroid is having to work more. It affects it's more prevalent in women. Vitamin D is essential. Vitamin D, if you've got a Hashimoto's condition actually, or a condition, Hashimoto's, let's talk here, Graves or Graves or Hashimoto's, sorry. You need to be looking at vitamin D. You should be anyway, because we've talked about this. Everybody should be looking at vitamin D. But you might need it in much bigger quantities than you think. So you might read the label and it's like 5,000 IUs. Okay, we'll take one. That might not even touch your condition because your gut lining is poor. You've got fatty liver. You've got metabolic syndrome. You've got a whole host of different things going on there. And it's just not touching the sides. So you might need to get a test, a vitamin D test. But definitely vitamin C is one to watch out for. Vitamin B1, I'm talking about hyper here, thyroidism. vitamin B1 can lower estrogen dominance. It can affect the good and the bad estrogen. Promote the good, lower the bad. Do not take purified bile salts if you are hyperthyroid. Okay, autoimmunity and Hashimoto's, that's a whole separate educational live, and it's basically your antibodies attacking your own gland. So let's say the thyroid gland. You're producing antibodies, and quite a lot of the time it's often followed by a stress event. So when somebody's diagnosed as having Hashimoto's and they think back to when it happened, a lot of times it's related to that stress event, and therefore is related and associated with your adrenals. Your adrenals are the fight and flight defences. We adrenals are wee triangular shaped gland that sit on top of the kidney. You've got two. And when you go into menopause around the age of 52, it's much younger now because of all these chemicals and everything that's coming, soy and everything. Women are undergoing the menopause much younger because of that. In fact, I need to talk to you about something that maybe is specific to the men in your life, so don't go away. Menopause. See, I try to tell you as much as I can. It's in my mind because I really just want to go. Now you know it. Menopause 50. Oh, the adrenals are the support or the backup gland to support your ovaries. So your ovaries are going to stop producing estrogen. Not completely, but slow down definitely. And in the absence of your ovaries working, your adrenals kick in and they help out. So they keep the feedback signal going. But if your adrenals are burnt out because you have led a stressful life, you've had stress events going on, you're depleted, then how are they supposed to help? Well, they can't. And in that case, you're going to probably have a not very nice 10 years of your life. You can support your adrenal glands and everything that you're doing on this. You're definitely doing that. But a stress event often causes Hashimoto's. Sorry, I'm digressing as usual. Okay. The test that you should get is not total T4 and T3, it's free T4 and T3. If you're going to get tested, please make sure, ask your doctor, is it total or is it free? The one you want is free. Zinc is also a great supplement to take, trace mineral, if you have a thyroid issue, hypothyroid issue. Right, I think we're done with thyroid. I hope that helps everybody. The main thing I want to get over is your thyroid issue might not be a primary issue. It may be something else, maybe associated with estrogen, environmental estrogens, liver problems, gallbladder problems, but you're on medication for your thyroid. What about the rest of it? When do we start talking about that? Well, we'll start talking about it today. That's when. Okay, right, I want to draw your attention to this. This was in The Guardian, everybody, and I have been banging on about this. Not specifically sperm, but I have been giving you wee digs in the ribs and wee nudges about this and the men in your life and how they're living as well. So, falling sperm counts threaten human survival. Why would sperm counts be at an all-time low? Well, why do you think? I'm just going to get the extract here. Right, hold on. Falling sperm count and changes to sexual development are threatening human survival. The World Health Organization also reported on this and leading to a fertility crisis. Now, I work with women a lot who struggle to fall pregnant. We do what we can to fix that, and a lot of the time you fall pregnant. That's what happens when you come on here. But what if the problem lies with your partner? Because they're not getting the support you're getting in terms of all of this content? Who's supporting them? I want to, through you. It points to lifestyle and chemical exposures that are changing and threatening human sexual development and fertility. Such is the gravity of the threats they pose, she argues, this is the woman that's wrote on it, the researcher, that humans could become an endangered species. Now wait there, listen. Swan, this is the woman's name. Swans are featuring a lot in my life this week. Swan offers advice on how to protect themselves from damaging chemicals and urges people to do what we can to safeguard our fertility, the fate of mankind and the planet. But that's not the point I'm trying to get to here. While contraception, cultural shifts and the cost of having children are likely to be contributing factors, Swan warns of indicators that suggest there is also biological reasons, including increased miscarriage rates, more genital abnormalities amongst boys, and earlier puberty for girls. Estrogen, what we just talked about. Swan blames everywhere chemicals found in plastics, cosmetics, pesticides that affect the endocrine system. Everything that we've discussed. Chemicals in our environment and unhealthy lifestyle practices in our modern world are disrupting our hormone balance, causing various degrees of reproductive havoc. She also said factors such as tobacco smoking, marijuana and growing obesity play a role. This article was amended on 27th of February 2021. Fine. I have suggested this to you many times. So, what's the angle I'm trying to get at here? The men in your life have to start really considering what they're eating, where the food is coming from that they're eating. So when they go away to work with their PC boxes and they're eating their bread and their pastas that are completely bleached and drenched in chemicals, what that's actually doing. And then they're drinking alcohol, and when they produce this fat, this big basketball alcohol belly, fat produces estrogen. So the male body's becoming feminized. And I talk sometimes about like man boob, like breast tissue in men, man boobs we call them, don't we? And hips and hair loss and prostate issues. So if your husband or partner is peeing a lot through the night and has these issues going on, then you need to be thinking about organic food. They need to be anyway, but sometimes men just don't even want to talk about things like this, do they? Not all men, but a lot of men. And I want you to tell them from me about this story. Direct them to The Guardian, direct them to the World Health Organization, and if you've got wee boys, talk about this stuff to your husband. So you create a unit, you safeguard their health. It's got to be done. Anyway, that is me done. Loads of love. Catch you later.